Spanx charges $98 for a pair of leggings. Old Navy charges $35. CRZ Yoga charges $32. Now watch this. Apparel supply chain analysts estimate all three cost somewhere around $20 to produce. Not $98, not $60, not even $40, about $20. So how does the same category end up with a 4 times difference in price? That's what this video is about. Because once I started looking into gymwear brands, I found something strange. The most expensive leggings weren't necessarily using dramatically better materials. They were telling dramatically better stories. And one brand on this list makes that painfully obvious. Most people buy leggings the same way. They see a logo, they see an influencer, they see a price, then they assume the expensive one must be better. Sometimes that's true. A lot of the time, it isn't. Because in activewear, manufacturing costs tend to cluster much closer together than retail prices. The product changes. The price changes more. And once you see the numbers, it's very hard to unsee them. I'm saving the biggest surprise for the end. Because the brand that offers the best value isn't the cheapest. And it isn't the most expensive. It's the one that quietly exposed how this entire category works. Let's start with Spanx. Price, $98. Estimated manufacturing cost, around $20. That's almost a 5 times markup before we even start talking about distribution and retail. Now to be fair, Spanx wasn't built overnight. Sarah Blakely spent more than 2 decades building the company without outside investors. No venture capital, no private equity, no Wall Street pressure. Then in 2021, everything changed. Blackstone acquired a majority stake in Spanx. The valuation, $1.2 billion. And that raises an uncomfortable question. When someone pays $1.2 billion for a company selling leggings, where does that return come from? Because the fabric didn't suddenly become 5 times more expensive. The stitching didn't suddenly become revolutionary. Yet the price remains near $100. Spanx isn't selling bad leggings. Spanx is selling trust. The question is whether trust alone is worth a $78 premium. Reebok leggings typically sell around $50. Estimated production cost? Still surprisingly close to the rest of the category, which is why ownership becomes interesting. In 2021, Adidas sold Reebok for up to $2.5 billion. The buyer, Authentic Brands Group. If you've watched this channel before, that name should sound familiar. Authentic Brands doesn't build products. It builds portfolios. The company acquires names consumers already trust, then licenses those names across different categories. The logo survives. The economics change, which means when you buy Reebok today, you're not just paying for fabric. You're paying for decades of accumulated brand equity. Champion tells a similar story. Different logo, different generation, same owner. In 2024, Hanes brand sold Champion to Authentic Brands Group for approximately $1.2 billion. Now think about this. Champion leggings often sell around $30 to $35. Not outrageous. But the acquisition reveals something important. The activewear industry isn't just competing on products anymore. It's competing on intellectual property. Names, logos, recognition. The product gets you in the door. The brand keeps the margin alive. Look at what's happened so far. 3 different brands, 3 different price points, 3 completely different histories. And yet they all rely on the same assumption, that consumers will use the logo as a shortcut for quality. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're not. Before we get to the brands actually earning their price tag, subscribe below. Every week we investigate the gap between what products cost and what companies charge. Alo is one of the fastest growing names in activewear. Its high-waist airlift legging sells for $134. That's more than Spanx, more than Lululemon. And it has mastered something more valuable than fabric: status. Walk into almost any major city and you'll see it. Influencers, celebrities, luxury fitness culture. Alo doesn't market leggings. It markets a lifestyle. And that's powerful, because the moment a product becomes a status symbol, the economics change. The fabric still behaves like fabric. The manufacturing still looks like manufacturing. But the consumer starts paying for identity. That's how a category built around stretchy fabric becomes a luxury business. Lululemon changed the industry. There's no way around that. The Align legging became the benchmark every competitor now chases. Price, $98. Estimated production cost, still somewhere around $20 to $25. But Lululemon learned a lesson most consumers forgot. In 2013, the company recalled roughly 17% of its black yoga pants after customers discovered they became see-through. The damage exceeded $60 million. One mistake, $60 million. Why does that matter? Because it proves something. Premium brands don't just sell products, they sell perception. And when perception breaks, the financial consequences become enormous. This is where the math starts getting uncomfortable. Old Navy's Power Soft leggings list for around $35, but regularly go on sale for less than $15, sometimes far less. Now compare that to Spanx, $98, almost 3 times the list price. The problem? The manufacturing gap isn't 3 times larger. The material gap isn't 3 times larger. The comfort gap usually isn't 3 times larger. Which forces a difficult question. How much of the difference is actually product? And how much of it is branding? Because once consumers start asking that question, premium categories become dangerous. This is the brand that kept showing up everywhere. Review after review. Comparison after comparison. Consumer after consumer. CRZ. Yoga built its reputation on a simple idea. What if we removed most of the expensive parts of the activewear business? No flagship stores, no luxury positioning, no celebrity machine, no billion-dollar acquisition story, just the product. Butterluck's leggings regularly sell for under $40, yet thousands of consumers compare them directly to products costing more than twice as much. And whether you agree with those comparisons or not, the existence of the comparison is the story. Because if consumers are even asking the question, the premium brands already have a problem. Let's do the math. Spanx, $98. CRZ Yoga, $32. Old Navy, $35 list, $14 on sale. Estimated production costs, far closer together than the retail prices suggest. That's the hidden mechanism behind this entire category. Consumers think they're paying for radically different products. Many times they're paying for radically different levels of marketing. The story changes more than the fabric. The branding changes more than the construction. The positioning changes more than the product itself. And once you understand that, the entire gymwear aisle starts looking different. The most expensive leggings on this list cost almost 4 times more than the cheapest. The fabric doesn't improve 4 times. The comfort doesn't improve 4 times. The durability doesn't improve 4 times. The story does. And that's why some companies can charge $98 for something that costs roughly $20 to make. A logo is not performance. Subscribe before you buy another pair of leggings. Next episode, polo shirts. The category where a tiny embroidered logo somehow became a luxury tax.